everybody, I am SHEAHDUMB 17, and for this video I will be talking about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So I first want to say, disclaimer, I'm a Marvel fan. I've watched all of the Marvel movies, I've seen a couple of the shows, I look at theories going on, and I'm very into the whole multiverse. That being said, I don't know everything. I haven't read one comic. So if you're looking for someone who will go really in depth in this show and knows almost everything about the MCU, then this is not the video for you. I just want the videos to be fun and chill, and I might talk about some theories and stuff, but I'm not qualified. So if you like it, I hope you enjoy and you continue to watch this video. In the beginning of the first episode, we see Sam, and so he's in a room. He's looking at a mirror, and it looks like he's about to get ready for something. We see the shield on the bed. While he's looking at the mirror, he starts to think about the end of Endgame, where Steve and Sam are talking, and Steve gives Sam the shield. So he starts thinking about that scene. While he's thinking about it, he's putting the shield in a bag, and we guess he's going somewhere. So that's how the show starts. Then we see Sam, and he's in a plane with a government official. The man explains to Sam that he's on the plane so that he could save one of the other government officials because they got kidnapped. So that's like his mission. So the guy explains to Sam that an organization called the LAF is responsible for this. Sam jumps out of the plane, and he flies and stuff. So he's flying to another plane, the enemy's plane, and he finds a way to get in with, the technology and stuff. There's a cool fight scene that happens. There's also like an iron shield, reveal, which was really cool. But while he's fighting the bad guys, they overpower him and then they escape. So he gets out the plane, and now he's following them because they use like some chutes to like jump out. So now it's this like cool flying fight scene where they're like zooming in the sky with the guy. And while he's doing that, a guy named Torres, he's helping Sam figure out everything and saying like, hey, you need to get him before it crosses a certain area. So because of what Torres says, Sam finally gets the guy, and after saving him, Torres is like on the ground like celebrating and stuff. We see Sam and Torres, they are sitting at this table and they're talking. He brings up the Flag Smashers, which is an interesting name. The reason why he brings them up is because the Flag Smashers have a print, and it's interesting. It's like a red handprint, and it's all over everywhere. And the reason why the Flag Smashers became huge is because of the blip. So basically, some people who were alive during the 5 years during the blip don't want people who weren't here to get back in power. Also, they feel abandoned by the new/old government because they feel like the government is focused more on the new people that are showing up than the people that were already there. So they don't want things to go back to where it was. They want to be in power and are mad that the people that are coming back are now in power again. So, this whole thing is happening, and Sam and Torres is talking about it, and I just think it's funny that they're having like this serious conversation, and while they're doing that, Torres like, I saw this thing on the internet that said that Sam is in the moon, and I just think that is so funny. Like, what? So then we see Sam, and he has to go to DC. So he's in his suit, and he's making a speech to all of the government officials. Rhodey is there too, and he's giving the shield to the government because he thinks it's the right thing to do. He basically said in the speech that, it's time for us to move on. Sam gives the shield to the government. And after that, he gets off the stage and he talks to Rhodey. And while he's talking to Rhodey, this government official man comes up to Sam and basically says that he did the right thing. Which is basically saying, like, hey, even though Captain America wanted you to have this shield, we think that he was wrong. So that was the first thing that kind of like made me, They put the shield in a glass container. That's the last time we see the shield for right now. Rhodey and Sam are talking in the Smithsonian and looking at what Captain America was doing. And, you know, Rhodey asks Sam, why didn't he become the new Captain America? Sam says to Rhodey that he feels like the mantle belongs to someone else, and that someone is Steve. So he just doesn't feel like he maybe deserves it. It was very nice to see Rhodey and Sam like talking about it. It was just a sweet moment. And in the scene, it feels like Sam is telling Rhodey how he feels about it and why he didn't keep the shield without telling him directly. So now we see a hotel, and that's when Bucky, who was the Winter Soldier, smashes into a wall and he starts fighting people. He was under Hydra, so he was doing his mission and eliminating the targets. And while he was doing that, a man was trying to get into his room, but he saw Bucky and saw what he did. So Bucky, being mind controlled, got rid of him. And then we see Bucky waking up. He's on the floor. The next scene, we see Bucky and he's in a therapy session. And while he's in that therapy session, he is talking to the therapist. He's kind of holding back, which I can understand, because imagine kind of being forced to do counseling so that you could kind of be free. So he has to do therapy, and the therapist, every time Bucky doesn't answer her question or something, she gets the notebook and starts to write stuff down. And that kind of, you know, bothers him because of what happened in Hydra. It kind of feels like a controlling thing. But during the therapy session, we find out that he has 3 rules. He can't do anything illegal. Don't harm anybody. And he has to say he's Bucky Barnes and he is tracking down this person to rectify what he did. So while they're talking about the 3 rules, you see scenes where he did do something illegal. He did kind of hurt somebody, but at the end he did rule number 3 correctly. And then we see Bucky. He's walking up to this older man, and his name is Mr. Nakasaki. We see them in a restaurant and they're talking and having a fun time. While they're talking and eating, a woman comes up to them, starts talking to them. Mr. Nakasaki asks the woman if she wants to go on a date with Bucky, and Bucky's like, you know. But she is happy to go on a date with Bucky. The waitress leaves, but while Bucky and Mr. Nakasaki is talking, Mr. Nakasaki brings up the fact that his son. Remember when Bucky had that dream/memory of him when he was under Hydra and he eliminated the witness? So we find out that that was Mr. Nakasaki's son. Oh, that's kind of messed up. We go back to Sam and we see his interaction with his 2 nephews and his sister. They're talking about their family boat, and the sister wants to sell it, but Sam doesn't. So after a lot of convincing from Sam, he convinces his sister to try and get a loan from the banks again, even though Sarah, that's the sister, doesn't want to do it again because she's tried and it didn't work out. So we go back to Bucky. It's nighttime in New York, and that's when he goes on his date. He opens the door, he gives her flowers, and she's like, oh, this is so old-fashioned, you know, because, you know, he's 106. So they're having a conversation, they're talking, they're playing games, they're eating, Everything is nice and fun. And then they start talking about his life, and there's a scene where she's like, I'm trying to read your mind, and he's like, don't, you know? Ugh. But then the waitress brings up Mr. Nakasaki's son, and that kind of Bucky a little bit. So he walks out of the date just in the middle of it. So he goes up to Mr. Nakasaki's room. Mr. Nakasaki opens the door and he sees a picture of his son. And I feel like in that moment Bucky was going to say something. Like, I don't know what he was going to say, but he wanted to say something. But then once he saw the photo and then, you know, his new friend, I think that was like, no, I can't do it. So he gave him food and then he said he had to leave. So in the next scene, we see Sam and Sarah, and they are going to the bank. They meet up with a guy who is a banker, and he recognizes Sam. And instead of, you know, being like, oh, where do I recognize you? I'm not sure. The first thing he automatically goes to is basketball player. And that's not good. But then when he finds out that he is an Avenger, then his like sights goes there, you know, and he's like, oh, you're an Avenger, that's what you are, you know. So Sam is trying to keep the banker on track and trying to be like, okay, so I need this loan for this boat that I have and I need the money. And the banker's like, we can't help you because you don't have money and you don't have like a career that gives you money and stuff. And he's like, well, I'm an Avenger, we don't really get paid for this. And then he asks like, oh, shouldn't have Tony paid for you? And it's just stuff that is like, this doesn't matter, can you help? And basically the banker says no. So Sarah's upset because she's already been through this, and Sam's upset because he thought he could help his sister because that's what he wants to do. So it literally goes nowhere, and the banker was only focused on getting a picture with Sam instead of helping Sam and his sister. That scene was so annoying. I was getting frustrated. Like, I was like, what are you doing? Like, for real, stop. Meanwhile, in Switzerland, Torres finds the Flag Smashers and he goes to where they're at. They do like this heist thing. So he gets the mask on, he's going undercover. A super soldier comes out, he's strong. And they're like, oh, that's crazy. So he's running after the big guy and he's like, this is not really my jurisdiction, but you're arrested. But that doesn't work out because he gets body slammed. He's recording it the whole time, so he got it on camera. After that incident, Torres calls Sam and tells him what happened in Switzerland and like an update about what's happening with the Flag Smashers. Now, after they're done with the conversation, Sarah, the sister, comes into Sam's room and tells Sam to turn on the TV. And once, you know, they turn on the TV, the guy that told Sam that he made a good decision on, you know, giving up the shield, he makes an announcement. And he basically says to everybody that there's a new Captain America. And this is John Walker guy. And Sam is looking at the TV and Sarah, and they're just shocked. So that's the end of the first episode. These are my thoughts for the end of episode 1. I was shocked. I was not expecting Marvel hitting on the struggles of being Black and dealing with the microaggressions of it all. I knew it was going to be interesting, or maybe not interesting, but I knew that this show was going to hit on the fact that Bucky and Sam are going through their stuff because of what happened with Captain America / Steve. But I was just surprised by, you know, what they were touching on. I love the first episode. I was super shocked when they brought in a new Captain America. It was very surprising, and I was just like, what? The whole scene with the bank was so annoying, and it really got me frustrated. Like, I was mad. But that's what you should be. Like, you should feel annoyed by that. Oh, also, I will be talking about WandaVision. I know I'm super late on it, but I will be doing a full review of the entire season. I hope you enjoyed this video and come back. Alright, I will see you guys next week. Goodbye. MCU Marvel.